Hello again, everyone. I just finished the video on rodents, but I want to make another video about two dogs that I owned. These were the last two dogs I owned. I had dogs all my life. But these two dogs were after I was married. The first one, the dog was named Pickles. My children named it. We had gone to McDonald's and we were trying to think of a name for the dog, and my children named it Pickles. I walked into a pet shop, and on the floor were a bunch of puppies. And I said to the owner, "What are you doing, selling dogs?" Because it was a bird store, pigeon store. He said, "No, somebody dropped them off outside. Now I'm stuck with them. I got to take them down to the pound." He said, "You want a dog?" And I said, "Yeah, I do want a dog. I've been thinking about it." I said, "Let me call my wife." So I call my wife and I say to her, "Frank's got some puppies in here. Do you want a chocolate covered one, colored, or a black one?" She said, "I don't want a dog." And I said to her, "That was not the question." I said, "Do you want a chocolate covered one or a black one?" She said, "Well, if you're going to bring home a dog, bring home a female." And I said, "Okay." I went into the box. First puppy I picked up was a female, and that turned out to be Pickles. Now, Pickles, when I got her home, we put her in the garage. It was not cold at that time, and she lived in the garage. As she got older, she can go out to the backyard. She couldn't go out front. The yard was fenced, so she had the whole yard for herself. And she ran around that yard. Now, Pickles was a good ratter. Nothing came in that yard that could crawl around and survive. That dog would catch him. Well, about 8 years passed, and the dog got hit by a car. She ran out, opened the gate, and she took off, and a car hit her. She was all right. She survived it, not bad. But about a year later, in the winter, the dog started to limp. She was about 9 years old. So I said to my wife, "This dog has not got long to go. She's limping around. We ought to bring her inside where it's warm." Brought the dog inside, and she never messed on the floor. She was used to her yard. That was her yard. And that was it. She was a smart dog, too. She do tricks, all kinds of things. Well, when we moved to North Carolina, the dog was still around. That dog survived for 18 years. Just survived. We took good care of her. She survived. I thought she was going to be gone when she was 10, but she went on. Well, finally, after 18 years, it was time to put the dog down. She couldn't walk anymore. She was pooping on the floor, and it was just time to put her down. Took her to the vet, put her down, and I cried like a baby. I mean, I bawled like a baby. This story goes into the other story with the other dog, and that dog was lucky. We buried Pickles. We had a big ceremony, but I was bawling like a baby. I miss my dog. I get choked up now. Anyway, my neighbor in the back, he heard about the dog passing, and Bob came over to the fence, and he said to me, Danny, I'm sorry to hear about your dog. He said, but you can go to the pound and get another dog. And I said, Bob, I said a prayer, and when he's ready, he'll send me a dog. He said, Danny, there's no stray dogs. I said, Bob, that dog is going to show up in this yard, and it's going to be a nice dog. It's going to be a beautiful dog. You got to remember who I prayed to. It's going to send me a nice dog. And he said, Danny, maybe you ought to go to the pound. He said, we got a leash law in North Carolina. You're not going to see any stray dogs. And I said again, Bob, you're forgetting who I prayed to. I prayed one time, and he'll answer my prayer. Well, about 2 years went by, and we had an ice storm down here. And I walked outside after that ice storm. The ice was on the trees, and the sun was out. Everything was sparkling. It was one of the most beautiful sights you could see after an ice storm. I mean, if the sun comes out after an ice storm, it was gorgeous. And things started to melt, it warmed up a little bit, and I walked out front. And I seen what I thought was a fox's tail. So I walked over, and it was the dog, Lucky. It started to run, and I yelled, "Stop, come!" And the dog stopped. I ran in the house. The night before, we had eaten some sausage. I grabbed a handful. I ran back out the door, and the dog was still there. And I yelled, "Come!" and the dog stood still. And I threw a piece of sausage at the dog, as close as I could. He wandered over, and he ate the sausage. And I called him, "Come, come." He didn't come, but I threw another piece of sausage a little closer, and he took that piece of sausage. By the third piece of sausage, I had that dog eating out of my hand. My wife came to the window, and she said, "Danny, what are you doing? That's a junkyard dog. Look at him. He's all wet. He's all soaked." I said, "Phyllis, this is an answer to a prayer." I said, "Look at the day. It's a God day. God sent this dog. He needs me, and I need him." Choking up again. Well, anyway, Lucky came in the back. I couldn't take him in because he couldn't hold his bowels. I mean, it shot out of his liquid. I fed him for a couple of days, and then one day, when I came home from work, he was gone. I sat around the house, missing my newfound friend. But my daughter had taken some pictures of him, and it was New Year's Eve, and I went down to the pound, and he was there all right. They were going to put him down because he had tested positive for heartworms. I said, "Don't put that dog down. I want that dog." And I took him home. You should have seen that dog about 2 years later. In fact, I got on my website, there's a couple of pictures of him the day he came, and about 6, 7 months, maybe a year later, there's photographs of the dog. I'll provide a link for it. Getting back to my neighbor, he came over to the fence, and he said, "Danny, I was talking about you in the church." I said, "Talking to me in the church?" I said, "The foundation must have shook." I said, "I never go to church. I carry God here all the time." He said, "No." He said, "I told that congregation, I got a neighbor who's got more faith in his little pinky than this whole congregation got." He said, and then I told him the story about Lucky. And I said to Bob, "You're breaking my heart." I said, "Maybe the dog came for you." He said, what do you mean? I said, I knew all along the dog would come. I said, you doubted. You told me that we don't have any stray dogs in here. There's a leash law. And I told you, you're forgetting who I asked. I said, you go to church. Maybe you needed to be reassured if you say a prayer and wait. And you can help somebody and they can help you. It will happen. And that's the story of Lucky and Pickles. I want to thank you for watching. I know this is not about racing pigeons, but it's more about life. Life is just as important as racing pigeons. They're part of life. But the real part of life is living it, being a good person. I made mistakes and I'm sorry for them. Very sorry. But be a good person and live with love. Thank you for watching, and please give it a thumbs up.